Alright everyone, so today, Spoilers with Friends is going to look at Survive the Hollow Shoals. It stars Brent McGee as Zach, a would-be survivalist who decides to spend 60 days in the wilderness in a place called the Georgia Shoals. This movie was released in 2018 and I saw it on Amazon Prime. So I'll throw it over to Anne and ask, and Anne has joined me again today. And so I'll throw it over to her and say, what did they do right with this movie?
Well, a lot of things. It was scary. I'll give him that. It was scary. It didn't go on too long. And I really liked the main character. He wasn't screechy and hysterical and idiotic like most people in horror movies were. He was a pretty reasonable guy.
Okay. Yeah, I thought... he's alone. Of course, the title is Survive the Hollow Shoals. It's a found footage movie, so you already know he's not going to survive. I mean,
he didn't.
You're in a found footage movie. Your footage was found for a reason. Yeah. But because he's alone, we avoid the big thing that bugs me about found footage movies, which is they just argue with each other. And it's like, at some point, you need to stop arguing and advance the plot. Because unless the argument does advance the plot, but all too often it doesn't. But in this movie, he's got nothing to talk to. So.
Yeah, like it would advance the plot if you had other people in the movie and you just ate one of the other people.
Oh, there you go. I suppose.
That might be something interesting to do. But he didn't do that. He didn't have the opportunity to do that. Poor guy couldn't even find any bugs.
I know. He does mention at some point that he took a course or watched a video or something. That's all the wilderness training he's got. So he seems a little unrealistic that he wants to go and suddenly live in the woods for 60 days with pretty much no equipment.
Yeah, with a
cameras and apparently a lot of battery packs. Because batteries never run out on the camera. But he doesn't have any matches. You know, he's going to make fire from scratch. And it's like, if I only had one course, I'd probably have matches with me. I mean, just, a couple of things like that.
Yeah. He also has no flare gun, no backup phone. He's got a cup. I mean, that bugged me more than, the thing about creepy things in the woods. It's less believable to me that somebody would get enough boiled water every day with a cup. I mean, I would think you'd want something a little bigger to boil things in. But yeah, I don't know what survivalist video he watched, but I don't think there's blackberries in October either, even in Georgia.
Yeah. So yeah, he needed a little more training or some more supplies. He has a machete and a cup, as you said, and that's pretty much it. A few more things, but I did like he was likable. He did, seem very sincere, and he makes his little shelter and starts hearing noises almost right away. So you get the paranormal starting to happen pretty fast. Sometimes that doesn't happen too in found footage. They'll start really late. You're thinking, is anything ever going to happen?
Yeah.
Except the arguing. But no, in this, they get right to it, and he's got no one to argue with, and he does get stuck in that Blair Witch dimension where no matter which direction you pick to walk in, you always end up back where you started. So that's
kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was frustrating if you were really in that, but I guess if I had not seen the Blair Witch Project, I probably would have been terrified out of my mind by this movie. but I'm kind of callous there after having seen it, but it was actually less irritating than the Blair Witch Project. I think you'll agree with me on that one.
They did argue a lot in that movie. I did read something that none of the cast members wanted to take down the tent, so they just had to argue until someone would finally just give up and take down the tent, and it's like, really? I mean, then you could have just edited the arguing out with the final product because it didn't do anything that they stood around. I always wonder why, though, when people are stuck in these dimensional things, they don't just go to that creek where they're getting their water from and just follow it downstream until it hits a road or something. They never follow the water anywhere. And you think that...
I wondered that myself.
But otherwise, I thought it was pretty scary too. The first time I watched it, I actually didn't get to the end. And most movies don't affect me like that. But my husband was on a business trip. It was like midnight. Everything's dark. And I got like 2/3 of the way through this movie and like, nope, not finishing it tonight. So I turned it off. The next afternoon I finished it, and it wasn't nearly as scary. It wasn't a bright, sunny afternoon. But if you're by yourself at midnight, it's pretty creepy.
That's true. It's still got some pretty good creepiness. I watched it twice, and I both times during the day. I was really interested in his survivalist techniques. I wish they'd have done a little better with that, because I was amazed that somebody could, with just a machete, finish off that many perfectly straight logs, and build that shelter in an afternoon.
Yeah.
I live in the woods, and I know what that stuff is like. It's like, yeah, I'm not so sure about that.
He does seem pretty unprepared for getting food and stuff, but over-prepared maybe in the shelter construction. But maybe he's done that. Maybe he's gone camping before, and so that wasn't, maybe he didn't consider that survivalist training. I don't know. But overall, this movie was scary, not too long, as you said, and things start happening right away. So overall, I think it's one of the better found footage movies that's out there.
I would definitely agree with that. This guy, if anything, he seemed a little too reasonable. It's like I would be a sobbing ball of jello probably by the second night. And I'm pretty used to the woods. But that was some pretty scary noises and scary stuff. And for a long, long time, this guy he doesn't really seem to affect him much. Finally it does, but you're sitting there looking at it, just like, dude, you're going to get killed. Show some emotion.
I don't know how much of that is just being a guy. I don't know, because if I were by myself in the woods, that's different than a man being alone in the woods. I think that I'm maybe more thinking about my safety, and I don't know that men think about it as much as women. I'm not saying they don't think about their safety, but like I had a friend once who's like, well, I saw someone on the side of the road and they looked like they had a broken leg and needed to ride, I'd pick them up, which is how Ted Bundy, got in a lot of people's cars. And we were like, no, never pick somebody up, because the women are all like, no, never pick up hitchhikers. And men are like, I'd pick up somebody who was on crutches. And, it's like, well, then Ted Bundy would have gotten you,
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of that is gender related.
I don't know. It could be. Mm. Although most of the men I know, when I see them come out here to the woods, are bigger sissies than the women. Because he looked like a city guy, somebody who was not used to the woods.
Yeah. And well, I think also the screaming at night sounded awfully human. So that would make me think, okay, there's like meth heads or something in the woods.
Yeah, well, bobcats and
they can sound pretty human.
Really do sound like people. We have bobcats here, and the couple of the first screams I heard, even I wasn't scared because I thought bobcat. And if you haven't heard it before, it will freak you right out.
Right. And foxes, too, can sound really, So, first of all, if I were doing this, I would have wanted to listen to some recordings of the wild animals I was going to hear, so I would know. But if it sounded too much like a human, then I would be thinking, I'm just walking out as soon as the sun comes up.
I wondered why he didn't try to leave earlier, because he did seem to be getting concerned, and he wasn't finding any food. And he looked like a pretty big guy. I don't think you're going to go very far on a couple of green onions and, a frog.
One frog. Oh,
yeah.
So, yeah, I guess maybe the evil things eat all the bugs and the frogs. I don't know.
But he should have gone after all those locusts that came in.
Yeah, there's like a locust station. He doesn't eat any of them.
Look, lunch.
Yeah, and dinner and tomorrow's breakfast. Yeah. So, yeah. But overall, I think they did a pretty good job with this one.
Me too. That was, and it's probably not one you would ever hear of anywhere else, but pretty darn good low budget film.
Yeah. So on the creepy doll head, how many creepy doll heads would you give it then? Out of 5?
At least 3.
At least?
At least 3. Yeah. Maybe 3.5. I'm not particularly a fan of found footage movies because you just know. The guy's gonna die. I mean, there's not a terrible amount of plot. It's like boy goes into the woods, boy gets eaten. Mm-hmm. That's kind of it. Like
them, yeah, but not everybody's thing. But it's like, I know you're all gonna die. But then when I'm not watching a found footage movie, sometimes, and the characters are being really annoying, I'm just like, can't something just come along and eat you because you're so annoying? But in this, something will come along and eat them eventually.
Yeah, that was definitely the merciful ending of the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah. So I think if there was anything, I thought they maybe showed toward the end a lot of the creepy women in the woods, maybe too much. It seemed like there was a little then too much of just like, oh, it's a crazy woman who escaped from somewhere. When you see the bad things, sometimes it relieves a lot of the tension. Yeah. So maybe a little too much of that, but maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I don't know, because I don't know if that woman or those women were the only things out there. Because you definitely got the feeling there was more than one entity.
Right.
Making noise and knocking over trees and.
Right, yeah. What was uprooting trees? We don't know.
Yeah. So that kind of, you got the feeling there was a lot going on in the woods. More than just like one irritated ghost.
Right. And apparently it's the wrong woods, because at the end we get the little card that gets thrown up saying the authorities eventually find his little shelter 10 miles from where he intended to be. So apparently can't read maps very well either, but maybe bad things were maybe encouraging them to go the wrong way from the very beginning.
Could be. Or it's like Brigadoon and fades in and out.
Maybe. We don't know. All right. Well, cool. That's it for another Spoilers with Friends. Thanks to Anne for joining me, and we'll see you again next time.
See you later. Bye-bye.